Today's focus will be on wave calculations. All right, so let's do problem number 1. A string vibrates at a frequency of 20 hertz. So as soon as I see that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to know what frequency is, and frequency symbol or variable is F. So I'm going to write down 20 hertz. And then it says what is its period. So I'm asking about its period, which is capital T. Okay? So what you need to do for any of these equations is you need to figure out what you're trying to solve for, put a question mark next to it, and then put in every piece of information with units next to the corresponding variable. Okay, so I've filled all that out. Now I'm going to move to the next box. So what it says is I have to circle the formula used. So I've got an F and I've got a capital T. The only formula with that where I'm solving for period would be this guy. Okay, and in actuality, I'm going to be focusing really on that one, which is T equals 1 over F. So I'm going to say T and my work is equal to 1 over F, which is 20 hertz. Okay, you do need to make sure that you write down your units. So I had to write down hertz for this one. And so when you solve, you just have to write the answer, round it if you need to, and then this is 0.05, and I do need to use units, and period's unit is seconds. So you'd write 0.05 seconds. Let's try the next one. Find the wavelength. So I'm asking for wavelength, and it does say to do it in meters. So I'm questioning about wavelength, which is this lambda, and its unit is meters, whose frequency is 3.3 hertz. So here's my frequency, 3.3 hertz. Okay, and it travels at 10 meters per second. Now, I don't tell you exactly what variable that stands for, but by this point in time, I do expect you to understand that meters per second is a speed unit. So that would be V for velocity, so it's 10 meters per second. Okay, so I filled out all my variables. Now I need to figure out which formula to use. So I have in this a V, an F, and a lambda. The only triangle or formula that has that is that guy, so I'm going to circle that. Then what I want you guys to do is I want you to squiggle out whatever one we are actually solving for, okay? Because then what you're left with is whatever you're supposed to do as far as the equation goes. So for this one, it tells me to take V and divide it by F. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take V, which is 10, and once again, write your units of meters per second, divided by my frequency, which is 3.3 hertz. Now, the units don't seem to cancel out properly, but they do, because hertz is actually inverse seconds, seconds to the negative first, 1 over seconds, whatever. And because of that, you'll actually end up, when you divide it, you'll end up with the correct unit of meters. So when I take 10 divided by 3.3, I get 3.03 repeating. And so what I'm going to do is just abbreviate it or round it to 3.03 and then write down my unit, not seconds, but meters. All right. All right, let's try the next one. Find the frequency of in hertz. So I'm going to do frequency, question mark, hertz. Okay, which is good because that's what our frequency is always in, whose wavelength is 2.3 meters. So under wavelength, I'm going to put 2.3 meters and travels at a speed of 7 meters per second. Now, it doesn't say speed, but once again, because it says meters per second, I do expect you to understand that that is a unit of speed or velocity by this point in time. So we're going to be using the same triangle, so I'm going to circle that, but in this case, I'm going to be solving for frequency, so I'm going to cover that up. So now what I need to do is take my velocity, which is 7 meters per second, and I'm going to divide it by my wavelength, which was 2.3 meters. So when I do that, I get 7 divided by 2.3. I end up with rounded number of 3.04. I typically like to round to 3 or 4 numbers. So 3.04 has 3 numbers, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now the units, you're going to write down hertz. You could also write down seconds to the negative first or 1 over seconds. All of these actually mean the same thing, but hertz is definitely the most common one utilized. So you could just write hertz. And let's do the last problem. A water wave has a speed of 3 meters per second. So under V, I'm going to write 3 meters per second. It has a wavelength of 5 meters. So I'm going to write down wavelength 5 meters. Now it asks for calculate its period. Well, this is a new one because period is capital T. So I'm asking for that one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through my formulas. This one does not have the capital T, this one does not have the capital T, but this one does. So I'm going to be using this because I have the lambda, I have the speed, and I have the period. So I'm going to be using this one. I'm solving for period, so I'm going to cover that guy up, and now I can move on to my next box where it tells me to take my lambda, or my wavelength, which is 5 meters, and divide it by my speed, which is 3 meters per second. So when I do that, I end up getting 1.67 when it's rounded, and my unit for period would be seconds. Now, if you don't know these or have them memorized, like T is equal to period and things like that, if you just look at your formula sheet, it's right there, so you don't really have to memorize it, you just have to be able to apply these. All right, hopefully you have an understanding of how to do some basic calculations, and have a great day.